So I have an article here from a little over a month ago where, based on the things that Bill DeBlasio is advocating for, it sounds more like communist policies rather than Democrat policies. I think this is really troublesome. So let's get into the article. Bill DeBlasio goes full communist and argues against private property. It's pretty disturbing. Says states should determine who lives where. This is really disturbing. In an interview that was published, this is actually a little bit old, so not this past Monday, back in September, the New York City mayor, Bill DeBlasio, went full communist, arguing against private property rights while saying the state should decide who lives in what buildings. That's pretty creepy that, they could come in. This is what's going on in Venezuela. If they own a house, they're kicking people out of their own homes and sticking them in government apartment buildings. In 2013, you ran on reducing income inequality. Where has it been hardest to make progress? Wages, housing, schools. What's been the hardest is the way our legal system is structured to favor private property. I think people all over the city of every background would like to have city government able to determine which building goes where and how high it will be and who gets to live in it, what the rent will be. Wait a second. Bill DeBlasio thinks residents of New York want the city to decide who gets to live in what buildings. Yeah, there's a certain group of people who would probably love to be put in, luxury housing. No matter we like to refer him as Comrade DeBlasio. But there's more! I think there's a socialistic impulse, which I hear every day in every kind of community, that they would like things to be planned in accordance with their needs. He added, apparently drawing from the communist maxim of from each according to his ability to each according to his need. He then admitted his desire for central planning. And I would too. Unfortunately, what stands in the way of that is hundreds of years of history that have elevated property rights and wealth to the point that that's the reality that calls the tune on a lot of development. He's criticizing property rights. For those of you who live in New York City, wake up. If you live in a nice building, would you want to be kicked out? I mean, I don't, but that he added. I'll give you an example. I was down one day on Varick Street, somewhere close to Canal, and there was this big sign out front of the new condo saying, units start at $2 million. And that just drives people stark raving mad in the city because this kind of development is clearly not for everyday people. It's almost like it's being flaunted. Look, if I had my druthers, the city government would determine every single plot of land how development would proceed, and there would be very stringent requirements around income levels and rent. That's a world I'd love to see, and I think that we have in the city at least are people who would love to see the New Deal back on one level. They'd love to have a very, very powerful government, including federal government, involved in directly addressing their day-to-day reality. That's communism. Communism and fascism. It's funny because his little minions go out and they, no fascist USA, no fascist, no fascist. I did a graphic on this before. The further to the left you are, the more government control there is. Communism is the ultimate government control. So the irony, of course, of all those minions who cry about fascism that are actually communists, like Sansara Taylor and her little minions, they're communists and they're complaining about fascism because they're talking about it being so much control and such, when in actuality it's less government control than them. Not much, mind you. And he's basically advocating for communism because he's saying federal government involved in directly addressing their day-to-day reality. Well, no, this is not the American way. I mean, I wonder if people in New York City really realized that he felt this way, that he thought this way, if they would be against it. I mean, I know a lot of the immigrants probably would, because That's what they did. They brought in people who were used to big government so that they would vote for big government to try to ensure lots of positions for themselves and their posterity. Alright, it's not reachable right now, and it leaves this friction and this anger, which is visceral. You leave an anger and a friction which is visceral. How about that, buddy? I mean, yeah, I guess the cost of housing has gotten insane, but this is not the way to handle it. I try to explain the things we can do. It's a little bit of a serenity prayer. Let's talk about the things we can fix. The rent freeze. We did reach over 2 million people. In 2015 and 2016, the mayor's appointees ruled that new one-year leases on rent-stabilized units could not increase. And I've talked to people who were going to be evicted, and we stopped the eviction by giving them a free lawyer. That was already a thing before he came to office. It's called legal aid. And I've talked to people who got affordable housing under our plan for 200,000 apartments. America Rising PAC said DeBlasio channeled Vladimir Lenin and Fidel Castro in his comments about private property. Yeah, pretty much. Mayor de Blasio has long been anti-capitalism. With his latest incendiary comments to New York Magazine, it's clear he's serious about challenging Bernie Sanders in 2020 for the title of most out-of-touch leftist running for president. I don't know if he's really that out of touch, though. I mean, you have a lot of millennials who are eating this stuff up. And the millennials are the ones who are very outspoken in society. They're the ones going to the protests. They're the ones online, and they think that they represent the whole society. And hopefully Generation Z is coming in as based as we think it is, but one of the reasons why he probably thinks that he's not out of touch, and in a way he isn't, is because you have all these millennials who are pro-Bernie, pro-communism. A lot of them don't realize it, or they realize it, but we haven't been teaching the evils of communism in society. I ask kids who are like high school aged, what do you guys learn about communism in school? And the ones I'm talking to are learning nothing. And we know out in California, we have teachers like Yvette Filarca who are teaching them that communism is a good thing. So we've got some problems in our society that they've used the schools to infect our children. And people need to become aware of it, and people need to start speaking up about it. And definitely, please, if you live in New York City, please get out and vote on November 7th for, I prefer Nicole. There's also Bo Dietl, but please, not DeBlasio. Please, not DeBlasio. He's a communist. Communism is crazy. They killed 100 million people. This is today's Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is really communist. Open communism. Sadly, a growing number of people actually support this nonsense, despite the fact that socialism has never worked. Yeah, because they're still protected by a cloak of capitalism. They have no idea. They have no idea what communism is really about. And a growing number of people who are supporting it are people who are coming up not having learned about communism in school. Like I said, I'm Generation X. Not every single day, but we used to grab the paper and we would discuss the arms race, and we would talk about communism is bad, they have no freedoms. And in actuality, communism it's an economic system, but in order to make it work, they also have to become very fascistic. So, the irony that they run around and go, fascist, homophobe, communists historically used to kill homosexuals, just like the theocracies in the Middle East. Maybe de Blasio should go live in Venezuela for a few years, and maybe he'll have a change of heart. Or not. Well, Venezuela also, they're not letting anybody in or out. So, this is not a forum that I read. Somebody posted this in a New York City kind of Republicans forum. So, I'll actually leave a link to this and you guys can read the comments. Read them if they want to. Right, guys? Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you all next time.